What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review, and this time we're going to be talking about Scream, written by Kevin Williamson, directed by Wes Craven. 22 years later, and Scream is still a culturally relevant movie. This movie is fucking fun. I love Scream. Watching it again, my love for it just gets bigger and bigger. Now, Scream will never go down as one of my all-time favorite franchises, or one of my all-time favorite horror movies, but it is a really good movie, and it's a great Wes Craven movie. Especially since that it was this movie that not only revitalized the horror genre, it also revitalized Wes Craven. And of course, this revitalization of his career went all the way to his death, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Wes Craven. Wish you're still alive. The horror world misses you, and your fans like me miss you too. But yeah, Scream is just all the stars aligned for this movie. This was the movie that needed to be made to revitalize what was a dying genre. Prior to Scream coming out, Wes Craven's career wasn't really doing all that well. Kevin Williamson as a writer was in the dumps, and the horror genre in general was one movie away from being direct-to-video. You know, Jason Goes to Hell was released, and that movie bombed. Freddy's Dead bombed and completely literally destroyed that franchise. You turned Freddy Krueger from this dream stalker to a comedian, and it got worse with Freddy's Dead when it went full-blown Looney Tunes. So the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise was dead. Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers effectively killed Michael Myers as a threat, because I know a lot of people like The Curse of Michael Myers, but let's be real, that movie was a piece of crap. The story was garbage, and that movie just had a very troubled production history, and it clearly showed in the final product. The movie was garbage, and it tanked. So yes, if the three big ones can't deliver, then you know you're in trouble. So pretty much like, if you're doing horror in the early to mid 90s, that means you were just signing your death warrant and you wanted to have no career. So Scream needed to be made in order to jumpstart a dying genre, in order to revitalize it, and it did so magnificently. I got very, very few negative things to say about Scream. Scream is a great fucking movie. It's fresh. It's youthful. It takes people who are already like pretty big successful stars because of television, and now you bring that success and proven names, and now you put them in this movie. You got guys like Skeet Ulrich, you got Neve Campbell, you got Courtney Cox, David Arquette. You got these young, fresh faces who are going to be big stars, and you put them in this movie, and it all hits on all cylinders. And plus, you got a guy like Wes Craven, who can direct, is a magnificent horror director, and now you have that old school clashing with the new school, and you get something new, you get something fresh. And you have Kevin Williamson, a passionate horror fan, who, again, he wrote a fresh script. It's very witty, it's very humorous. The character interactions and character bantering is natural. It's you can sense that these kids, they know each other and they're friends. That's how natural not only the acting is, but how natural the writing is. And the fact that Wes Craven, he let them ad-lib a lot, and it really added a lot of depth and a lot of meat to these performances as well when you let them ad-lib. A lot of good stuff. This movie has a lot of good stuff in it, man. You got has a lot of memorable characters. You got David Arquette as Dewey, who is hilarious, and I've always found David Arquette to be a funny guy when he's working with the right director, and Wes Craven got the best out of David Arquette. He knew how to utilize Arquette's talents, and it works perfectly in Scream. You got Skeet Ulrich, who has that all-American good boy look, and you would never, it's kind of like Anthony Perkins. You would never suspect someone like a Skeet Ulrich to be a psychopath, and he is at the end of the movie. You got Matthew Lillard at Stu, who's like this goofy clown. You got Randy, someone who I can relate to, because I'm a movie buff, and that's what Randy is. He's a movie buff. You got Neve Campbell, who is this tortured girl with a troubled backstory. Her mother died a year before the events of the movie, and a guy that she blamed is now on death row, close to being, about to awaiting his death. You got Rose McGowan as the best friend, who to me is the least interesting character in the whole movie. She's kind of disposable, but it's good to have her around because she complements Sidney. She's pretty much Sidney's anchor. You know, and you got the whole backdrop of this movie being a whodunit murder mystery. And it works, you know what I'm saying? It's fantastic. Like, as the characters are trying to figure out who's doing the killings, you're trying to figure out who's doing the killings as well. Paying attention to all the small details, like these little things, these little clues that you're trying to piece together to see who's doing this. You know, you got the first 12 minutes of this movie with Drew Barrymore, which is a direct tribute to Psycho. You know, Drew Barrymore was a big star back in the 90s, and you killed her off 12 minutes in, and probably what was the most suspenseful and shocking beginning to any opening. Wes Craven. You want Wes Craven to show you kick-ass? The first 12 minutes of this movie is kick-ass. The last 10 minutes of this movie is kick-ass. And everything else in between is fantastic. This is a near-perfect movie. And I say near-perfect because I do have some quibs with it, some criticism with it. My main one being that I think they telegraphed Billy being the killer, and I would not have done that. I would have kept the audience going. Pretty much, when the killer's attacking Sidney, seconds after he leaves, Billy pops up through the window, akin to what he did previously in the movie when he went to go sneak up on Sid, popped in the window. Comforting her, cell phone falls out of his pocket. Sidney automatically starts to get suspicious of him. He goes to jail. You know, like the movie to the movie's credit, I think it knew it telegraphed Billy by doing that. So in order to throw suspicion off, you had him go to jail. And when Sidney got a phone call at Dewey's house, it ended up being, it wasn't Billy. It's revealed in a later on scene that, you know, Billy used one phone call to call his father, not call Sidney. So I think the movie knew it telegraphed Billy, so it was trying to like diverge you off course. But I think, but a very keen movie goer would be like, yeah, you ain't throwing me off there, bro. You fucked up. You fucked up. You had it, but you fucked up. It's okay. Just admit you fucked up. And that's the one thing I don't like with the movie, is that the telegraph of Billy. And the whole thing of the boyfriend being the killer, that works for me. Stu being his right-hand man, that was hilarious. The scene of those two stabbing each other at the end is gruesome. It's brutal and funny. It's gruesome, brutal, and funny all at the same time, because there was a mistake that happened, and they kept it in the movie, which is a scene where Billy goes to throw a phone at Stu, but since his hand was all slipped with the fake blood, the phone slipped out of his hand and just whacked Matthew Lillard. Like, whacked Matthew Lillard hard, and he's like, "They hit me with a phone, Jack!" And they kept that in. Hilarious. My other favorite Stu line is like when he's talking to Sidney, and Sidney's like, "I called the police," and Stu's like, "Did you really call the police?" Sid's like, "You bet your ass I did." Then Stu's like, "Oh man, they're gonna be so mad at me." Good stuff. Hilarious. I love Matthew Lillard and Scream. It's hilarious. And I love Jamie Kennedy in this movie as well too. He's hilarious too with his little horror facts and his whole subplot trying to get with Sid. It's all good stuff. You know, I can relate to Randy. You know, being a horror buff, wanting to get the girl you want, and the girl just brushing you off, not interested in you at all. You'll forever be the friend, pretty much. It's good stuff. Good stuff. And of course, you got Courtney Cox. How can I forget Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers? You know, she's a bitch. At the end of the movie, she's still a bitch, but now she's a weathered bitch. No pun intended. But I do like the chemistry between her and David Arquette, and I like the budding romance between the two. I think they worked well off one another. It's very natural. It's good chemistry. It's believable. It's probably one of the best, you know, romantic stories in a horror movie, because it's real and it plays off perfectly. Again, you have Wes Craven, who took it seriously and made it work. A couple of things I want to touch upon. The cinematography in this movie, fantastic. Mark Irwin does a spectacular job. Mark Irwin's cinematography, along with Wes Craven's skills as a director, is a perfect combination. They complement each other well. Marco Beltrami's score is fantastic, and from time to time will get used in other movies. That's how culturally relevant the score is. It's fantastic. So yeah. No, there's a lot more I could say about Scream, but I'm not going to, because watch the damn movie yourself. It's that good. And watching it 22 years later, it's still good, which is why I have no problem giving it a 9 out of 10. This is a fun movie. This is a great movie. The first 12 minutes are awesome. The last 10 minutes are awesome. And everything else in between is a good murder mystery. And you have fun trying to solve the case along with the characters. It's perfect. Love it. Wes Craven, this is Wes Craven with his A game. And Wes Craven with his A game is the best Craven. Anyway, that's all I got to say about Scream. Let me know in the comment sections below what you thought about Scream. Tell me if you like it. Tell me if you hate it. If you haven't seen it in a long time, give it a watch and let me know what you thought about it 22 years later. Like the video, subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.